Hello and welcome to Multifamily Elevated. My name's Suzanne Hopson, and I am super excited to talk to you about vision, people, and execution, and how you can utilize this information to elevate you and your team and your experience in multifamily. Brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, giving you the latest and greatest news and content across our multifamily sector. So let's jump in. Enjoy this episode of Multifamily Elevated and enjoy the climb.
Hello and welcome to Multifamily Elevated. My name is Suzanne Hopson and I am your host. You might have remembered me. I was also on Paul Marx's podcast as a co-host, and that was Decoding Multifamily, where we had the opportunity to talk to many guests and industry icons about them, really decoding them. And Paul, my partner in crime, has decided to take that podcast and continue it. And I'm starting out on my own. So I want to thank you in advance and just know that I'm going to be providing a whole lot of new content as it relates to business foundations and structures, also the importance of vision, people, and execution. So we're going to talk a lot about elevating your own business, but also about elevating yourself. And so I get to share the stage with many hosts on this network that share every day great nuggets that we can take back into our work and that actually make a difference in our day-to-day lives. And it isn't just about the work. It's about our personal lives too. There's been a big focus on mental health this year. And I doubt that that's not going to continue in 2025, as obviously it's an issue in our industry, as is a lot of things, increasing expenses, tricky economy. Although I think there's a lift, I feel like in the air, there are people that are feeling good about this next year. Obviously, it's at the end of the year. And that hope is something I'm going to really lean into for all of us. So I really hope that you enjoyed this series. The first season is going to be all about those business frameworks, business operating systems, if you will, and how even if you don't think that you have, or you do think that you have a business operating system or you don't, you do. And so this is about being intentional about it, really bringing your full self to work, and also just leaning into who you are as a human, finding those superpowers and applying them to your work. But a little bit about me first. Just an introduction on who I am and my history in multifamily. I have been in multifamily for over 3 decades. I started out as a phone girl, and yes, they were called that back then. As inappropriate as it sounds today, that was very common. And it was on a student property in Lansing, Michigan. It was a huge one. It was over 500 units. And I didn't realize how impactful that was going to be to cut my teeth on a student property. So anyone running student properties, my hats are off to you. It's a whole different beast. It's a wonderful beast, but it is very, very challenging as it is seasonal. So I started out and I almost got fired. A lot of people that know me would not believe that I'm actually an introvert and that it's very difficult for me sometimes to get out in front of people. And that was very much the case in my early 20s. And as shy as I was starting to feel like perhaps this wasn't going to be for me. And then in stepped my mentor. I'm not going to name her, but she is still in the sphere. She owns a very successful business, not surprising. And she made an indelible impact on my life, which I think every day in my mind and in my heart, everything that she did for me. And so she believed in me and she thought, you know what, I'm going to spend some time with her and see if we can't get her unstuck. And she did. And we practiced. I had those index cards that had every single floor plan on them and a description of every single room and square footages and all of our amenity packages and offerings. And I had to memorize that. That was a test. And then I had to practice. And then I had to role play. I had to role play again. And finally, I started to loosen up a little bit. When I got my first application, I was like, okay, I can do this. But it was something, and it still is to this day, something that I have to combat, that, people do have something important to say, and that there are people that will hear it and it will make a difference. So from there, I slowly moved up the ranks and through some really great management companies, large and small. I was in Detroit area for quite some time, just some incredible companies with incredible people. Ended up being in a couple of marketing seats as well as regional manager seats. And then I just decided I was going to take a hiatus. Took a little bit of time off. Wasn't very long. I think it was like a month and a half. And decided to go work for the other side, which many of you know is not operating, but rather the partners that we partner with in multifamily on the tech side and all sorts of different providers. So I did that, and I had the incredible opportunity to work at Grace Hill for almost 7 years. I named them because I think that they are still an incredible company. One of the things that I think about at the beginning when I went there was the focus on the customer. And they had a sales department, and then they had an account management department. I was in the account management department. And the culture was just incredible. And I thought, wow, this is probably the first time I had evidence the owners really walking the talk. And it, again, made an incredible impact in my life. I knew that at one point in my life, not only was I going to continue to give back open doors, help mentor emerging leaders, but I also wanted to be a part of culture building because I think it's an incredible way to influence and impact several people at the same time. And I felt like, wow, those successful companies, they really have successful cultures. And so I began to study that and really look at what makes a great culture, what makes a great company, and who are the great people that actually make that happen. And so after my time with Grace Hill, I decided, you know what, I'm getting back into operating. And so I did so. I had been out for so long, I wasn't quite sure I could get back in. It had been a long time and 7 years away from the technology, 7 years away from, cost increases and other challenges that were coming down the pipe legislatively and otherwise. I just wasn't really sure I could catch up, but I was determined, and I did. I had the opportunity to really begin with not a startup, I would say, but a company that was growing rapidly and needed people at their leadership level that could step right in and operate. So I went into that role as a director of ops. And then as we began to build, I started the marketing department and got that built out. And then I was asked to be the president of ops, which I took on. And then ultimately I was president of the company. And all of the learning that I had done throughout those years really came to that moment. And I used every single skill set that I had and developed some that I did not have. It was quite the leap for me. There are things that I had not done before. And again, I had to walk in and really learn, show vulnerability, show I didn't know, ask questions, and seek out people that were smarter than me in those areas. And so I had the very, very great opportunity to join Vistage out of Chicago, a great leader there. And his name's Dave. And I was surrounded by people that had built huge companies, top line revenues of, a lot. And what I found was the commonality in this group was basically that we all struggle with the same things. Imposter syndrome, not knowing what to do next, fear, all of the things that can hold a person back. Every person in that room had either suffered from it or was suffering from one of those things at the moment. And so it was really great to be able to be with people that had already been through it and could help guide me, but really that made it okay to say, I just don't know. I just don't know the answer to this. Can you show me? Can you help me? Where can I go to get that information? And so from there, I think a lot of the things that held me back that I didn't think I knew or could learn, I just decided to do it. So through that experience, even I also got introduced to business operating systems. And several of you may have heard of EOS. There's Pinnacle, there's a few others scaling up. And I was just dumbstruck by how simple it was to have a powerful operating system, and that it was like this hidden nugget or secret that multifamily had not heard of. Now, I've met with a lot of people in multifamily that are familiar with these frameworks, and they will say and swear by them that they really do help build great companies faster. And so that introduced me to really the importance, and I have always known this and been driven by it, but of our people. And making sure that people that we do have coming into our company or onto our bus are the right people in the right seats. And experimenting with centralization during COVID and beyond, it became even more of an important driving factor that we provided specialized roles for people that we knew that they couldn't be great at everything, and that this was really a calling that I felt inspired by, and still to this day talk about a great deal, because people are what make what we do work, and they are why we do what we do for our customers, our partners, and our coworkers. Having people be in the right seats is glorious. And you talk about culture being cultivated. That's where the magic happens. When people are in their genius zone, when they're able to do exactly what they're supposed to be doing, because we let them, we encourage them, and we let them fail. And I say this because failure has been another very close friend along my journey. I have failed many times. The people that have worked closely with me or have been in my family, my long-term friends, they know all the ups and the downs of my life or things that we've gone through together. And I used to think of those things as a mark on my chalkboard of success. So I had my good things that happened over here, and then I had all of the failures over here. And in looking at now, looking back 3 decades, I'm so glad I had all of those failures. And now I feel compelled to not only share them with you and learn more along with you and the wonderful guests that we're going to have on the Multifamily Elevated Podcast, but I want to share some of that road rash that I went through so that hopefully you don't have to go through some of that you can avoid some of those trip ups and pitfalls that me and many others have learned from along the way. And I guess lastly, I would say just thank you for listening. I hope that you get something really great out of listening to my podcast. And I can't wait to surprise and delight, along with the many others on our network, you, because multifamily is where it's at. So thank you. Look forward to our next episode. It's going to be great. It's all about frameworks and the importance of them. And I have got some really great guests lined up. So really looking forward to it. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Multifamily Elevated, where we hope that you are inspired and ready to go, elevated to take on your next challenge in multifamily. So if you liked this episode, please subscribe, like, comment, and of course, share with your network. And don't forget that this was brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, that is also sharing the latest and greatest in trends, ideas, and content across our multifamily space. Until next time, keep elevating, and we'll talk soon.